Part 2 of The Nuclear Deep End, an EMP Apocalypse episode series. Part 3 is under construction. Like and subscribe so you don't miss it. Copyright, Firefly, 2023. Voiced by AI.
Chapter 4. We all assembled around the door, eyes fixed forward waiting on Tony to pull it open. I didn't know how many people were outside of the door. I do know, we could hear them gagging and throwing up. In between emptying their stomachs, you could also hear them calling out to us. Truth be told, they probably didn't even know if anyone was in here. They were probably just calling out to anyone who may have been able to help. Either way, it felt personal. I knew we were there. I knew they were on the other side of the door. It felt like a burning rock in the pit of my stomach. There was nothing I could have done. If I or anyone else would have opened the door, we all would have died. Either way, they were dead. Tony stood ready to open the door. The group right behind him to face whatever lies beyond head-on. Once the door opened, everything became real. Other than the thump of 3 lifeless bodies, this world was silent. The early morning light filled the destroyed fast food interior. It was blinding for eyes that have not seen anything over dim light in days. Everyone blinked and stumbled their way through the doorway, taking caution not to trip over the fallen bodies. It wasn't exactly the hellscape I had imagined, but it's not exactly pretty. Most notably is the stale smell in the air. It's like the mild funk smell of a fridge. Not enough to curl your nose and send you running, just enough to remind you to clean it. The parking lot looked normal, all things considered. Branches and small debris litter the ground. Across the rather large lot was the wood line the Southwest team will use as a guide. These woods run along Interstate 95, a straight shot for Richmond.
Hey, what is this on the ground? I was worried when we came out of the door it was vomit, but everything is covered in this slick gunk.
Alex looked torn between disgust and amusement as he lifted his boot to demonstrate the problem.
Well, I didn't want to say anything since I was already labeled a complainer.
Heels trailed off and cut her eyes at me. I giggled at her annoyance with her new reality. I don't know, it's possible it's some form of acid rain. I suggested, knowing it was probably stupid as I said it.
So, we learn Rule 1. Everything is a threat. Good. Gross shit all over the ground. Nope, probably not good.
Tony said, obviously irritated as he looked at the plastic bags taped around his shoes.
This won't work for long.
We will figure it out. Probably better to talk and walk. Daylight is burning and we all have miles to go. I said, trying to keep everyone from getting discouraged. After hugging, we split off. Me, Alex, Tony, and Heels. I made a note of shoes being super important for Heels before she stumbles and breaks her ankle. I would hate to have to hold a vote on if we should leave her or not. All joking aside, there isn't medical care anymore. That's a huge risk. We need to cover the basics.
So which way?
Alex asked as we left the intersection. To the right. I pointed. We are going to follow those woods on this road here. It runs parallel to the highway.
Why don't we just walk on the highway? It would be more direct.
Alex asked as the group went right.
I don't know about you.
Tony said, looking at him.
I believe that was a clear indication that World War III has begun. The reality is we don't know if there are foreign military using our highways to get around. We don't know what is happening. It's probably easiest to lay low in the cities.
Plus, there is a shopping center. Since it is much older, there are a lot of interior stores. It's more of a miniature mall than a strip mall. I would like to see what we can find locked away in sealed inventory. I glanced down. This isn't going to work for long.
How long will we need to stay covered like this?
Heels joined the conversation. I don't know. I also don't know how we'll know it is safe. Until we can make that conclusion, I would like to play it safe. We have no idea what has happened or what the repercussions are. I can tell you that this much radioactive ash and particle in the atmosphere will cause some problems and will be falling for a long time. Truth be told, we have zero definitive answers for what could or will happen. Nothing like this has ever happened on Earth. I tried to explain my logic.
Well, that's stupid.
She replied. For once I could tell she was accepting of information and irritated with the situation, not the people. The fact is she has realized she is no different from us, and with that out of her mind, she fits well. I looked at her and gave a slight shrug. Yeah, I know. We haven't seen a soul yet. Granted, we have only been walking for about 10 minutes. It's weird. This is a truck stop city. We are between Richmond and Fredericksburg and completely built for heavy traffic. Granted, there are cars everywhere, just sitting there. It's like the whole world is frozen, and we are trapped in one moment in time. Like suddenly the earth became void of humans. It's creepy and lonely. With eyes that are readjusted to the light, it isn't so bright out here. It looks more like an early dusk haze in a polluted city. The ground was still covered in the mystery goop, so it's hopefully not sewage. Various size branches littered both directions of travel lanes, probably from the air rushing ahead of the boom.
Looks like a fucking hurricane out here.
Tony stated. He seemed to be taking everything in.
Yeah, I know. It's unbelievable. Boy, they really seem to know how to set the stage for the apocalypse.
Alex said, running his hands through his hair. He stopped and pointed.
Looks like that is burnt down.
I squinted to try to make out the building. Sure enough, it was burnt. We just assumed the smell was associated with the bombs. I would have never considered how lucky we were that our building didn't catch fire.
What do you think happened?
Alex asked.
I would guess it was from the EMP. The burst probably sent surges of electricity through something that happened to spark a fire. Honorable mentions would go to an accident to the people who were using it for shelter. Like a cooking or heating accident.
Tony said, looking to Heels. She didn't say a word, but knew what he was talking about. She complained the whole time about us not trying to make a fire to keep warm. She couldn't seem to understand that given the limited variables and supplies we had to work with, if the smoke could get out, the particles would be able to get in. Now it's all starting to click for her. We all slowed as we came up on the first vehicle. I think we have all been wondering the same thing. Where are all the people? I mean, hopefully they are all safely inside these buildings. I know that is impossible. I'm guessing they all died trying to make it home. Tony approached the newer SUV. He pulled his side arm and held it lowered as he peered into the back seat. He looked for a second, then said,
Clear.
I breathed out. Good, I thought. Until we have more information, I would like to not encounter people. The problem with this logic is encountering people would lead to information a lot more quickly. Let's see what we can find in there, I said, pointing at the gas station up ahead.
What are we going to get? Beer and cigarettes?
Heels asked. They might have something for us to use to carry sealed drinks and food, I responded.
Yeah, truck stops usually have a decent number of things. The people who stop here spend every day on the road. Rain boots would be nice. They usually have outerwear like that.
Alex added. Yeah, we just need to pray they have some sealed in inventory. Otherwise, they may cause more harm than good. Once we get more west, I would be less concerned, but we are damn close to DC as far as fallout goes. I reminded him. At this point, we also need to be hopeful that there are no people inside it. If they barricaded themselves inside like we did, we'll have to try the other 2 truck stations. I wouldn't blame them for not opening the door. They are safer with it closed for as long as possible. The parking lot was the same story as the vehicles on the road. Frozen in time. One of the trucks looks like it was pulling off from getting gas. What a waste, I thought. The inside of the store was still visible from the outside. So, no piled up furniture in front of the glass. This was a strong start. We came to a stop about halfway through the parking lot.
How do you want to approach?
Tony asked me like I was in charge. I don't know. You have the experience here. I responded.
So, me and Alex will approach and check the door. If it's clear, then you ladies move up. Once you all are outside of the building, we will check the inside before we all go shopping.
He laid out the plan. Okay. I said, knowing full well this just put me on babysitting duty of heels. I do, however, like that I am not the one walking into the building blind. I am able to keep cover and watch the outside until we know the inside is safe. Here I can see all threats, well, except the ones that haven't exposed themselves. There's nothing I can do about a potential threat aside from remaining on high alert. I thought to myself as my eyes continued to scan.
Do you think it's empty?
Heels asked, as we squatted behind the front of a car who had been pulling off from the gas pump. Honestly, I don't know. The wishful thinking side of me wants there to be all the people from the cars out here, in there. The realistic part of me knows most people would have started their way home. I said, thinking the highways must be littered with people who died where they dropped.
I thought the same thing.
I wondered if we had similar thoughts to what we may see in the future. It's not exactly a comforting feeling. I looked around the cars in the lot again. The boys have been inside for about a minute now. I would guess it is safe for us to move up to the front. I nudged her and nodded forward. Still shrunk down as I could get, and still move with speed, I shot across the parking lot to the car close to the main entrance. I do know it was a bit much, but it sure helped me feel better. We were now positioned in front of the building waiting for an all clear from the guys. I tried to see in, I didn't see much. They have large displays clinging to most of the windows, displaying the price for cigarettes and the attached all-you-can-eat 24-hour buffet. It's part of the reason this exit is so popular.
Come on in.
Alex said, poking his head out of the door. Good. I said, getting to my feet. At least we are off to a good start. Just inside, the building opened in a typical gas station. Further in the back, the candy and chips ended. This is normally what the everyday travelers come in here for. Past the tourist portion of the station, you could see safety vests for the side of the road emergencies. That's the portion of the inventory we need to find.
Don't open that!
Tony's voice ripped through the silence.
What? I was only going to get a drink.
Alex replied, with one hand still on the handle of the drink cooler.
We need to find something to put those in. Also, when we open the door to those, it will create a small suction, but it will be enough to pull in particles. Think smart. There is a door to the whole refrigerated storage somewhere.
Tony said.
Opening that door will cause the same problem.
Heels pointed out.
Yes, but it won't be directly in front of the drinks we plan to touch.
Tony countered.
Oh, yeah, I can see your point.
Alex said, letting go of the handle. We need to find gear first. We need something to carry what we find. Hopefully, in addition to boots, we can find backpacks. We can line backpacks if we can find them with the shopping bags they put purchased items in. I redirected everyone back to our main mission. Once we got to the back section of the station, my mood brightened. There was a door leading to what I would assume was a storage room. "We need a key," I said as I inspected the door. I pushed on it. It was solid.
I found one.
Tony called from the other side of the room, holding a crowbar into the air.
Why is that here?
Heels asked.
I would assume truck drivers like to have them on the road to help with things like tire changes. Most often these are used to pry things apart, and big rigs have some big parts.
Alex offered, while Tony positioned himself to pry open the door. It only took a few good pulls and the door came open with a crash. A fraction of a second later, the door frame crashed to the ground. Inside the smaller room, there was exactly what I had hoped to find: sealed boxes. I stared, reading the outside, looking for anything that might help a group as large as our own. I took a mental note of a box on the top shelf displaying a small first aid kit. The box also showed it was a 24-piece case. That's better than I could hope for. Not like we can carry all of those, but we might have some luck on our side after all.
I think I found something.
Heels called out. I looked over an aisle to the back wall of the storage room as she held up rubber overalls that were attached to rubber boots. Looks like something that would be handy in a flood, I thought. I wonder how many there are. The whole group made their way over to her.
There are 5 pairs here. And look, there are book bags over there,
she said excitedly and pointed. My eyes followed her finger. Hell yes! I cheered.
Now this is a party!
Alex responded.
What about these raincoats for the top?
Tony pointed at a box. Well, we won't be able to make them airtight, but it's certainly better than what we have going on now. I shrugged. I picked up the backpack off of the shelf and immediately thanked the person who decided to have them in sealed packaging until they are placed on display. I opened a case of thank-you-style carry-out bags, pulled a few off and placed them one inside of the other to line the bag. Everyone followed my lead. Once the bag was as apocalypse-proof as possible, I started shopping sealed boxes in storage. I walked back over to the first aid kits and tore at the tape. Hey, come get some of these, I told everyone. We need to get this done and move on. Fan out and call out what you see, I instructed. There was an uplift in the energy of the room. It felt less like the end of the world and more like a shopping spree giveaway game from the 90s. Everyone was just shouting out the name of items they thought would be helpful. I tried to be as strategic as possible. I put a few candy bars into my bag. They are good for colder nights. A few extra calories to help stay warm. I already have a backpack, so I plan to carry this one on my front. It will be a slight improvement to the radiation getting to my organs. Or, at least that is what I am telling myself.
Score!
Tony yelled. I looked over just in time to see him hold up rubber kitchen gloves. I guess even truck drivers wash their dishes. Chapter 5. After we taped ourselves in our improved makeshift radiation suits, I was feeling a bit more like this was actually possible. Like I was now with a group of survivors. For an unlucky person such as myself, things seemed to be turning around. I glanced at my group. Yeah, we can do this. My eyes went to Heels.
We look crazy.
Tony laughed out. I couldn't stop a grin from spreading across my face. He was correct. People would have thought we were insane if this was a normal day. We looked like we were on a mission heading to the swamp to look for a radioactive Bigfoot. Let's go look in the restaurant to see if there is any edible food in there before we grab the drinks and head out, I said, gesturing to the back left of the building. Most of the group were double backpacking it. Good, I thought. I know they will get very heavy very quickly, so we needed to get moving. Also, I would like to put some distance between us and DC. There isn't an event we can look at to judge what is going to happen. All that I can think about is this one acid rain movie I had seen. It takes all the joy away from being in the rain and yelling I'm melting, like a wicked witch. The restaurant reflected the pandemonium, unlike the rest of the travel station that looked fully stocked and ready for business. We all bunched up in the doorway, eyes shifting from the knocked-over tables and dishes scattered about. It almost looked like everything was thrown around before the previous occupiers ran out.
Wow, what a mess.
Alex thought out loud.
Look at the window.
Heels pointed to the wall of windows at the back of the restaurant. I followed her pointed finger. Glass covered the floor below several broken window panes. Jagged shards hung from the top of the frame. I'm guessing this was from the rush of air. I mentally gave myself a high five for bracing the windows when we bunkered in. It most likely saved our lives. It honestly was an afterthought I didn't even know if we had time to do, but something told me to do it. I'm glad I listened.
Man, that is incredible.
Heels said.
I agree.
Tony nodded. Just then, there was a loud bang from the back of the restaurant. I thought my heart was going to fly out of my mouth when I heard it. My eyes scanned the room again from one end to another.
We should check it out.
Tony said, taking a step forward.
No, we should leave. If we're going to die, I would like to do it a little further away from the job I hated. I don't want to be trapped here as a ghost.
Alex countered. We are not going to die. I tried to encourage Alex.
You don't know that.
He shot back. Well, no, but I think we will be okay. I offered.
It might be someone stuck.
Tony responded.
Fine.
Alex said, obviously irritated about the vote not going his way. I smiled. Tell you what, you two stay here, and we'll go check it out, I said, pointing at Alex and Heels. Alex nodded. Tony and I made our way over to the back of the restaurant where the sound had come from. Tony had his gun in a low-ready position. I followed behind him, mirroring the way he carried his gun. As soon as we rounded the entryway into the kitchen, we heard the loud thump again. This time it was followed with a muffled cry for help. We locked eyes and moved forward. I couldn't believe someone was actually alive in here. I wondered where they were stuck. I spun around as something slid across the floor behind me.
Sorry.
Heels said, as she stepped out from in front of my gun, trained right at her face. You're lucky I didn't shoot, I told her.
Sorry, we heard another sound.
She responded. Yeah, we heard someone call for help, I told her. I think there is someone stuck in the back.
Or luring us into a trap.
Alex scoffed out. I rolled my eyes and caught back up to Tony, who seemed to have found the source of the sound.
Over here.
He said, pointing at a large beam in front of the walk-in refrigerator door.
It must have given way, trapping people inside. Help me lift this.
I motioned to Alex to help. With a few good pushes, the door was freed. My heart raced as I grabbed the handle of the door. I didn't know what we would find behind it. Was this the correct thing to do? What if there was a gun pointed right at me before I opened it? My heart leaped to my throat again as another boom hit the door. I looked to Tony.
Hello.
He called.
I'm in here.
A female voice called. We have unbarred the door. Do you have something to cover your face? I asked.
Yes! Please open the door. It smells horrible in here.
She pleaded. I wondered if she was even aware of what happened out here. I thought about all the spoiled food she is undoubtedly trapped in there with. After 5 days, I'm sure it all has went bad. With any luck, there was a second door in there leading to the freezer where she could have separated the spoiling food to. I yanked the door open, peering inside. A flashlight beam from Tony beside me filled the dark room. The smell smacked me in the face as soon as the door opened. It was more than just spoiled food. I looked at the floor beside the woman in front of me. There was a chef jacket.
It belongs to the dead man in the freezer. Michael and I were in here taking inventory.
She said, following my gaze, before locking eyes with me. Okay, I said, moving to the side to let her out. As she stepped out, her hand covered her mouth, and tears welled up in her eyes.
What happened?
She asked as she took in the destruction of the restaurant. I was struck that the restaurant being in such a state is what brought tears to her eyes, not a dead coworker.
What do you mean?
Heels asked.
Why does everything look like this? Why did it take so long for you all to find me?
She pushed. I must admit I was a little taken back at her less than grateful attitude. What was wrong with this lady?
What do you think happened? What is the last thing that happened before you got stuck?
Tony questioned.
Well, Jaden called out sick, so Michael and I got stuck doing the inventory count. I remember the lights going out, but it happens sometimes with the walk-in light. I guess there is a short. I grabbed the flashlight I brought in just in case. Then there was a loud boom and yelling outside. Then silence. We tried like crazy to get out.
She paused and looked around.
We thought maybe a truck hit the building and it caved in around us.
She finished.
So, what happened to Michael?
Heels beat me to the punch.
He was a diabetic, and we were stuck without insulin. I put him into the freezer after he died. I thought it would stop the smell.
She pointed at the door.
So, you have no idea what is happening?
Alex asked her.
Why do you all keep questioning me? I didn't lock myself in there just to kill my friend.
She shot back angrily.
Where are the police?
They are not coming.
Tony said.
What are you talking about?
She asked, eyes scanning, obviously looking for emergency responders.
We got fucking nuked.
Tony just dropped the bombshell. Her mouth fell open. She stood there, eyes devoid of emotion. I couldn't imagine what it would be like to spend 5 days locked in a refrigerator, even without the dead body. I looked at my group, wondering what we were going to do with this lady. I'm not cold-hearted or anything, but I'm not exactly thrilled at the idea of having another person tagging along. Especially one that is so unfriendly.
So, you have been in there for the last 5 days?
Heels asked her.
I don't know how long it has been, but everything was normal when I walked in there.
She replied. Heels cut her eyes to me. I knew exactly what she was thinking. I thought back to our conversation a few days ago. She had insisted that the walk-in would be safer than where we were sitting in our own hideout. I nodded in understanding. Mentally, I added her to the survival scoreboard. That's 1 point. Given the opportunity, I would love to remind her that the stranger had gotten stuck. So, I still think my plan was better.
So, now what?
Alex asked. Do you have anything else you can wear? I asked her, looking at her diner-style uniform.
No.
She replied.
I cannot wait to go home and change.
How far away do you live?
Tony questioned. Obviously, she is not understanding the severity of the situation.
About 20 miles north.
She responded.
That will be a long walk. Do you have a family?
Tony pushed. Her eyes dropped. I had assumed she didn't have one, or wasn't super close to them. Since it was not the first thing out of her mouth after Tony said we were nuked. She remained quiet. Clearly there is a story there for another time. She lifted her eyes.
What do you mean a long walk? I have a car in the parking lot.
It most likely will not start. We were hit by an EMP before the nukes hit, possibly at the same time. I would guess minutes apart.
Tony answered her question. She seemed to chew it over for a second.
What is an EMP?
Tony let out an audible sigh. He felt the same as I did about going through this again with yet another person who didn't seem to think this was possible. All these people lived in La La Land.
I will explain everything, but we need to get you dressed. I don't know if going north is the best idea, unless you have to. The more north you go, the more radiation you will have to deal with. I'm not sure these suits are enough even here. I would not want to walk north.
Tony said as he spun around and headed for the other side of the station. That seemed to be enough to get her on the move. I thought about how much radiation she could already have been exposed to just standing here like this. It didn't take us very long to get back over to the big rig driver's side of the store. Luckily, we've done this once already. We already knew what would be her best options against radiation. She could save time on the deliberation portion of getting dressed for the apocalypse. I couldn't imagine what she would be thinking right now. She had no idea what happened, even watched a coworker die. Once she was finally rescued days later, it turns out no truck hit the building. World War III actually exploded. When that door opened and she saw us standing there, no EMTs, no dirty group of local volunteers digging through rubble, just a group of random people who looked more like swamp people than a savior. That had to be as shocking as seeing the mushroom clouds. Chapter 6. In a much more orderly fashion, we got our newest member to the Apocalypse Survival Club, dressed. As much as I didn't get the strongest impression of her, standing off to the side while Tony and Heels helped her into her new attire, I got to do some thinking. She seemed cold about the poor guy in the freezer who died. Then again, I am colder than most, and that ability to mask pain and stay calm comes from the darkest places inside. She had dealt with death before. I couldn't say that for sure, I reminded myself. I would have to listen to see what I could pick up on. Since she didn't have a family, unless she had a bunker at her house going there would be pointless. It's not exactly that I wanted someone else to tag along, but having another number in our group could be a good thing. The bigger our number, the less likely we will run into an opposing group. I'm sure people are losing their shit, not a good time to be out alone. I turned my attention back to the group as Heels and the stranger went behind the wall, probably for some privacy as she adjusted her lady parts into a comfortable position to be trapped in for who knows how long. They were only back there for a minute or two when they came back around the wall. I know we can't just pick up and add everyone to our group as we go along, more mouths will equal more food. However, I do think having a group of 5 over a group of 4 is a strong improvement. I explained to the group, hopeful that they would pick up on the whole stranger danger I was trying to convey to them.
Well, I'm Kaya.
Heels said to her as they rounded the corner. So that was Heels' actual first name. While I still liked calling her Heels, now that she has ditched them, it just doesn't feel the same. I guess I missed her name when I joined the group midway through her introduction. I need to have better people skills, I reminded myself. I can't just blow up potential friendships just because I like being a sarcastic little shit.
This is Jessica.
Heels reintroduced the stranger by her name.
So, as I was telling Jessica, there is a real danger walking north. She lost her family in a car accident last year. She doesn't know where else to go. I told her she can walk with us. Maybe we can find someplace safe along the way for both of us instead of just me.
Heels asked and stated in unison.
Yeah, sounds like a safe plan. I wouldn't like to think about all the things that could go wrong while you were on your way to a home that might not even be there. I also feel better about putting you in that suit. It will be far more helpful heading out of the radiation than heading back into it.
Tony spoke my actual thoughts. I know we can't just pick up and add everyone to our group as we go along, more mouths will equal more food. However, I do think having a group of 5 over a group of 4 is a strong improvement. I explained to the group, hopeful that they would pick up on the whole stranger danger I was trying to convey to them. The whole group seemed to be behind having a new member. However, I didn't want to hang around any longer. A quick in and out mission for supplies has turned into a rescue mission. We should still make the mall before nightfall, but might end up using it for shelter for the night instead of just stopping through. Everyone, let's get ready to head out in 5. I instructed. I know I am not exactly in charge, but we need to get moving.
Okay. I'm ready to get away from this stupid area. I am not prepared to spend the apocalypse at my job.
Alex joked.
What about Michael?
Jessica asked. I knew exactly what she had meant. Unfortunately, we will most likely see more dead bodies than alive ones. I feel fine about burying Michael if you all would like to. There will be a considerable risk. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, it will be digging directly into the particle-crusted earth. This will probably mean we are putting more of the radioactive particles in the air around us when we disturb the earth. I explained to the group why I wouldn't mind waiting around while they dug, but couldn't help. Honestly, I felt like a jerk. At the end of the day, my goal was clear, be an alive jerk, not a dead jerk. The group seemed to be thinking this over. No doubt everyone wanted to do the right thing. But what was the right thing? Things are so skewed now.
Could we move them over to the tree line? I mean, it's not a proper burial, but at least he is not left forever in the freezer.
Alex offered, clearly heeding my warning.
I don't know how I feel about him being ripped apart by animals.
Jessica whispered.
What about a fire burial?
Tony asked, half shrugging.
I mean, I know it sounds harsh, but this was often a way of sending off the fallen warriors in massive bloody battles. Well, honestly, I can't say I see this as much different.
He finished.
I guess that's a better alternative to being eaten.
Jessica kept her whispered tone.
But we aren't just going to drag him in the center of the floor here and do it, right?
Yeah, there also is a lot of things here. If anyone else in the area made it, they may need these resources.
Alex pointed out. Tony looked to the burnt-down building.
What about there? The corner of the cinder block, it's still standing. We can pile up broken wood and make a fire. The cinder blocks will help hold the heat while restricting the fire. Probably our best bet.
I didn't know much about who this guy was, but I am thankful for his abnormal experience in life. It is kind of reassuring to know that on this long walk you have a badass as a wild card when things get rough. I couldn't help it. Some people say I'm a natural-born leader. I just think I am ready to get where I am going. I am curious to see what has become of our world. I put myself on the team of gathering wood. Thankfully, Alex and Tony volunteered to move Michael. This left us 3 girls to pile up wood. Fortunately, there was a load of charred up wood, already littered all around the ruins of the building, making the task take just under an hour. As the tips of the flames begin dancing wildly, I thought of my favorite poem. Not exactly spot on but close. It's The Cremation of Sam McGee. Two lone travelers who were on a mission for gold in the worst of circumstances. Needless to say, there was a cremation, as there was also a loss for other ways to rid oneself of a body. After several awkward moments, we moved on. Finally, we will be putting some distance between us and our old selves. It's hard to believe what can happen in moments. The things that can change in a day. Alex interrupted my thoughts.
Can we check the radio?
Yeah. We just need to keep the volume down, I said. You are going to have to get it, top of the second large pocket. I gestured to my bag.
You have a radio?
Jessica asked. Well, it's not super helpful at the moment. It just keeps giving the same pre-recorded messages. I think at some point it will start to give more information. Just keep in mind, we the people are always the last to know what is going on. I tried to guide her level of expectation.
That's okay. This has been a mind-bending experience. Sometimes I don't know how I have always just kept one foot in front of the other. Some information would be nice. Even just a voice while we walk.
She and Kaya exchanged a smile. Alex found it right away.
Man! The flashlight was left on. So, I'll have to wind it first. We are on 20 minutes standby.
Alex said like a sportscaster in a play-by-play. The road seemed to stretch out for miles beyond us. The building that is Michael's final resting place is just barely visible behind us. I would guess we have made it a quarter of a mile to half of a mile. There were stalled cars just sitting all over the roadway. We approached each one with caution. No doubt this was adding to the time, but if even one of the cars were occupied, the situation could take a turn. Branches and leaves still littered the road. This truly was a new normal. The whole group came to a stop as a faint rumble filled the air. We all looked around like someone would have an answer.
Thunder?
Jessica Whisper screamed her question.
I don't know.
Tony said, looking at the sky.
Looks like it might be.
His tone several notches lower, like the gathering clouds might overhear him. How long on that radio? I asked Alex.
We should be able to get something now. I'll wind it again after we hear something helpful.
He offered. Make sure you flip it to the WB or weather band. If there is anyone broadcasting, that would be our best information. I said as I picked up the pace for the group.
Are we going to try to outrun the storm?
Kaya asked. No, but the more ground we can cover the better. I don't know what kind of storm is coming, but we have not passed a place I would like to ride a potential storm out in. I explained as I racked my brain for ideas. Static filled the tense air around our band of misfits. All eyes snapped to Alex. I glanced up at Tony. He was still scanning the area as we walked. I glanced at Alex again as he slowly adjusted the radio. I moved my eyes back to the road. The road was lined with trees both directions coming up. This was the end of the touristy trust stop area. Now we only needed a building for the just in case. A new voice filled the air.
If you can hear me, you will be impacted by this storm. It is moving northeast. Local time now is 3:56 p.m. This line of storms will be stretching from Maryland to parts of Georgia. The storm will be near the Tri-Cities area later tonight. Expect rain to begin any time after 6 p.m.
Kaya spoke over the newscaster.
That's us, right?
Yeah, that's us.
Tony said, looking directly back at the road.
We have been receiving reports from local ham radio operators that the rain is causing bad reactions to the skin. I do not want to scare you folks. Take your young children out of the room. This is scary stuff, folks. You do not want to be out in these downpours. Over the last few days, we have been receiving reports of the rain leaving a thick residue on the ground. This also affects the skin. Quarter-sized hail has also been reported. Winds may gust up to 40 miles an hour. We should expect damage to all structures given the circumstances. That being said, get low, but watch for signs of a flood. Move to an interior room, but make sure you have an exit plan. This is a cruel world, ladies and gentlemen, but together.
The radio abruptly cut off.
Crap! I gotta wind it!
Alex said, already winding like his life depended on it.
I think I liked it better before the radio turned on.
Jessica joked.
Yeah, no kidding.
Tony laughed.
So, now what is our plan?
Kaya asked. We keep walking. I told her as I adjusted the time on my watch.
We only have 2 hours. What are we going to do? Let's walk back to the restaurant.
She countered.
Not a good idea. We can't move forward if we go backwards.
Tony explained nicer than I was planning to.
Yeah, but we know that building is safe.
She explained. Finishing with,
We did okay there.
now it registered to me. She has fear of the unknown. The kind of person who can't help but to not like change. I can understand that. The building was groaning all night on our last night there. Gusts of winds in a big storm could bring it down. We stand a better chance of finding something that sustained less of an impact from the blasts, thanks to all the trees. Even a little can help. I built onto Tony's statement. Silence and tension filled the air. I didn't know if people were thinking about bailing or praying for a building. We have 2 hours to find shelter. It should be enough time, though I might give myself a headache trying to remember what is along this road. I always take the highway, and we have long passed the exit for that. Not that it would have been much help in finding a shelter to ride out this storm anyhow.
There's a building.
Kaya pointed off ahead to the left.
No, that's a house. Most likely a house that is built from wood. It would be nice to find something made of brick or concrete. It will be more stable. Up off the ground might be pushing it, but a higher foundation is a real tiebreaker.
Tony politely dismissed her finding.
Why are we so picky? It's the end of the world.
Jessica asked. Because every decision could be life or death. I delivered the news. Silence again filled the air. Man, this was going to be a long walk. I liked it better when we were all joking, not trying to top each other's if-then arguments.
Well, at least now we have a better time frame for camp, and we know what this mystery goop is. We should name it.
Alex broke the silence. Laughter all around seemed to revitalize the group. Good, I thought. We might still make the mall, if not at least get closer to it. There are several stores within that mile leading to the mall. I know I remember seeing them. I glanced at my watch. If we can keep our pace, we can finish the next 2 miles in under 40 minutes. Hopefully we can make the last mile in less than 20 minutes to give ourselves a good window to get things set up before the storm. If not, then we can make a decision there, while there is still time to adjust the plan. We need to plan ahead. Or as my grandfather would say, failing to plan is planning to fail. Then a thought slammed into my mind. I wondered if Amanda's group was still in range of the walkies. It would be nice if we could give her a heads up. I grabbed at the walkie so frantically Tony drew his sidearm purely off of my body language. He did it so flawlessly, while pointless, it was impressive.
What's up?
He asked me, with his eyes still scanning. Nothing, I just thought I would try to see if we are still close enough to reach Amanda's group and warn them of the storm. I don't know, we had such a late start, I know they have miles on us already. I said almost as if I was preparing myself for the inevitable bad outcome.
Worth a try.
Alex responded in his always hopeful tone.
Thank you for listening. This has been part 2 of The Nuclear Deep End, an EMP Apocalypse episode series. Part 3 is under construction. Like and subscribe so you don't miss it. Copyright Firefly 2023.